As we see the president order the National Guard into Democratic-led cities, it is raising serious legal questions about the president's power. He claims the cities are out of control and the deployments are necessary, even when state and city officials say otherwise. In Oregon, a district court judge even said Trump's claims about Portland were untethered to facts and ruled against the authorization. That judge was appointed by President Trump. This comes as members of the Texas National Guard arrived in Chicago today. With us for more, former White House lawyer Ty Cobb from the president's first administration. I really appreciate you being here because you can give us a true inside look. What is your reaction to all of this?
I think it's very scary. I think the manipulation of the troops, inserting them into cities, largely in blue states, is by no means accidental. And we have a president who called 800 generals and staff officers and flag officers to D.C. last week to be told, to be ready to practice in American cities against American citizens, and I think that's underway.
Who do you think is going to win the legal battle over whether the National Guard troops can be in Portland and Chicago and other cities?
I wish I knew. It's a much closer legal issue than I think people understand.
Why?
The Constitution gives the president, wide powers, but also the two statutes that are in play for him to use, 12406, which is what he's relying upon in Portland, and the Insurrection Act, give the president the opportunity, contrary to the Posse Comitatus Act, to use troops to protect, national facilities, national troops and sites that are governmental. It also allows him to quell a rebellion. Now, you would think the Insurrection Act would be to prevent an insurrection, but in this instance, we have an insurrectionist who's experienced, probably likely to use that act to cause an insurrection.
Where do you think this is going to go? We had a guest just a few minutes ago. This is looking like, if you look at it just on its optics, right? National Guard troops from Texas to Chicago. Is this like a reverse civil war?
It could be. I hate to say it. I hope that reality intervenes and people get their senses and we can avoid that. But absent somebody persuading the president that you don't have to be evil, you don't have to be mean, you don't have to be cruel in order to demonstrate the fact that you're the most powerful man in the world.
Look at this administration. Who would that somebody be?
There's nobody.
A Politico op-ed argues that Pam Bondi has emerged as perhaps the most openly political and partisan attorney general in modern American history. Do you agree with that?
Yes. I think she, her performance today clearly dislodges John Mitchell as the, most regrettable attorney general in history, and he was convicted and went to jail.
Will she face any consequences for today or her conduct thus far?
So I hope that there's an accountability panel or tribunal at some point to deal with the many unqualified people who've abandoned their oaths to preserve and protect the Constitution at some point. But I'm much more interested in it just being over and restoring the country. But
when you say you hope, how rooted is that in our current reality?
Not very. Right now, that they don't have many speed bumps in their way.
Let's talk about Jim Comey, because he's expected to be arraigned tomorrow. He's obviously said he's innocent, his heart is broken, not just for himself, but for the entire Department of Justice. Do you think this is a vindictive prosecution?
Oh, certainly it's a vindictive prosecution. If vindictive prosecution means anything, it means when the president orders the Attorney General to indict somebody that the Justice Department and the FBI have already concluded there's not sufficient evidence to indict merely because he's a presidential enemy, that's vindictiveness. Now, the standard for vindictive prosecution is a little more narrow than that, but I think this will qualify. At the same time, I don't think there's a chance in hell if this case gets to trial that Comey could possibly be convicted. It was 14 there were only 14 of the 23 grand jurors that voted to pass out the two counts that made it through. As you'll recall, one count was rejected. And that's a far cry from, unanimity and unanimity in a courtroom where, unlike in the grand jury, there's actually a defense attorney. So I don't think that a conviction is possible. And obviously the Justice Department is concerned because they couldn't find anybody within 500 miles to try the case for them and had to go to North Carolina to get prosecutors.
You're speaking both earnestly and honestly about the law and how you see things landing right now. When was the last time you spoke to President Trump? Because he does not like it when anyone, especially who was part of his first administration, anybody he worked with, says anything close to what you're saying to me tonight.
I haven't spoken to him since 2018.